first edition of the Naharjitu Bookathon presented in association with the Raisoni Foundation. About the book, The Fixer teaches valuable lessons about the destructive nature of ego and power struggles within a family business. The Upadhyay Empire's downfall highlights the importance of effective leadership, collaboration, and conflict resolution. It shows how personal vendettas and poor management can ruin success. The novel emphasizes the need for humility, open communication, and ethical decision making to sustain both business and family relationships. A speaker for this session is Suman Dubey. Author entrepreneur Suman Dubey studied at Cornell University and worked in Silicon Valley. In his 20-year career, he has experimented with 5 different career paths across 9 industries in 12 global cities. Having developed unique exposure and perspectives from his wanderings, he has finally settled in Mumbai to pursue his 2 greatest passions: government coffee making and fiction writing. Rupa Publications have recently published his book, The Fixer, a fiction thriller based on match fixing in cricket. Our moderator for this session is Dr. Pooja, a surgeon by profession, a writer by heart, and a seeker in spirit. Dr. Pooja writes under the pseudonym Fire Heart and is forever in flight on the wings of imagination, on the journey of self discovery, riding the waves of change. She thrives on books, on chai, on philosophizing the universe, and universalizing philosophy. She has been writing since she was 8, dabbling in various forms of the craft, the words and the verses. Her poems and short stories have found their place in various magazines and anthologies. Her novels, Where There's a Will, Dial T for Terror, and A Genre Called Hope, have received many rave reviews. Between writing prescriptions on one hand to stories on the other, she is now exploring the poetry of inner silence. Over to the speaker to take the session forward.
Earth, and all I can say is I'm glad to be here for the second year in a row. Mr. Dubey is an entrepreneur and writer who wears many hats, and his first book is all about spins, boundaries, and bats. I'm honored to be in conversation with him today. For what is a game after all if there is no fair play? So that's when a player shifts his focus from the field, the court, and that's when he can see is the currency note. So I welcome you all to this session on crime and sports. And Mr. Dubey, really nice that we can speak here.
Thank you, Pure Heart. I would like to start by welcoming everyone to this session. Thank you for joining in on a Saturday evening. I'm sure you have other things to do as well, but you gave us your time, and I'm immensely grateful for that. And I'm also grateful to the Orange City Literature Festival for inviting me to this session, and to Pure Heart, who is has been grateful enough to agree to host this session. And it's going to be a very big honor for me to talk to her during this session, and I hope that you all enjoy this conversation about my book and about generally about crime in sports.
So your book, The Fixer, has an extremely engaging plot with a lot of twists. So how many googlies and spinners have you bowled at the unsuspecting readers?
Yes, you're right. It's googlies and spinners because it's a fiction thriller which is meant to keep on surprising the reader at every page. And unless we are able to do that, we can't keep the readers engaged into the story. And as an author, I recognize the fact that every writer is competing with OTT platforms like Netflix for the time of the audience, and one has to entertain and educate both at the same time for making it worthwhile for people to read. So this book, this is the core story of this book. It came from a quote that I read many years ago. The quote goes like this: that when the gods wish to punish us, they answer our prayers. And it was it's a quote by the Irish novelist Oscar Wilde. The subject is aspirational regret, that sometimes when we desperately want something, it might not be very good for us to get it. And this quote stayed with me, and I wanted to examine this from the perspective of a sports character who has retired, and only sports people retire in midlife. So, and they can't go back to doing what they have been doing. You can't start playing again. So that's how it came to be a story about sports, because I wanted to understand or examine the unique desperations of a person who has finished his career in midlife, and it's not a great career, and now he's desperate for restarting something, redeeming himself, getting a second innings, and those unique desperations, which is connected to crime and match fixing and things like that. Uh, that is what this book is about, and how he gets trapped into a bad situation and how he gets out of it in the end.
Wow, that is inspiration, and that is how you started your writerly innings with a genre which is not so widely written about. So, sports as a genre, what do you? How come you chose to write about sports in particular?
Yes, actually, I have grown up in this Jamshedpur. It's a small city in East India, home of Tata Steel. And what's unique about Jamshedpur is that there is a playground behind every house. And if you want to play, you can go out and play. And when I was a kid, most of my time when I was not studying was on the playground. And my parents used to have to struggle to bring me back into the house. Uh, and uh, uh, and thus I've played a lot of sports as a kid, and even in college, and all the way to Cornell University as well, where I played a little bit of cricket, because the American sport of baseball is pretty similar to cricket actually, and you can actually motivate some of the Americans to play cricket as well. So sports played a very dominant role in my formative years. And there are some, because I've played a lot of sports and I've observed a lot of sports people, I have found some unique thing about sports which, make it so glorious, in a sense that the first great thing about sports is that the results are instantaneous and unambiguous. There's no other way of reading a result. If someone has won, he has won. That's it. I mean, if you have scored 100 runs, you have scored 100 runs. There's no other way of reading it. And the result is instantaneous, as opposed to many other things in life which you might keep on doing and you don't even know what has come from it. That's the number one thing. The second is that sports gives us certain unique qualities which are very vital for us going forward, even if we don't pursue career in sports. For every career, these qualities are important. Things like leadership skills, communication skills, especially in team sports, being able to communicate with people, or being able to lead people on who are not directly under you, or who are your peers, which is a very difficult thing to do. Uh, Teamwork. How do you get together and create magic out of it? And most importantly, which I have seen the most, is that it teaches you how to deal with failure and accept failure as a big reality of life. And the fact that failure can actually be the stepping stone for bigger things. That you come back again the next day and bowl again, even if the previous day you were hit for a lot of runs. This thing gives us certain qualities that when we go ahead in life, we are able to deal with the situations of life, be it failure or success, and we don't get bogged down by bad situations. And these are vital skills to have, which sports gives. And that's why sports is very, very close to my heart, and I chose to write my debut novel based on sports.
Wow, that's something. And the way you spoke about resilience, because I too believe that every student or every child should be introduced to sports so as to get that kind of resilience and that ability to manage failure, as you said. Yeah, so you have set your scoreboard rolling already with a book on match fixing. So, any specific reason?
Here, I think
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
we have
yeah,
an
right.
audio.
So, right.
Can
So,
you,
I said that, yeah, so resilience is one of the very strong points that you brought out in sports. Any specific reason you chose cricket? Because you set your scoreboard rolling with match fixing, so.
That's right. So yes, as I said before that, although I've played various kind of sports, soccer and badminton and tennis and squash as well in university. Cricket is the one that I played the most, and I think that's an Indian thing as well, that we simply love the sports. And I remember that when India won the '83 World Cup, uh, uh, in Jamshedpur there used to be no TV station at that time, so there was no television in my house. And my father in the night was listening to the commentary of the final. And when Kapil Dev took Richard's catch, that very difficult catch, we ran backwards and took it, the whole neighborhood erupted in celebration. And the next day, there was a huge procession of people who had come out to celebrate the win. And that 83 win, apart from a major sports victory, was something that made us believe as a nation that we can, occupy the center stage. We can, take on the world, and we can become world beaters. It gave us a lot of self-belief and confidence. So cricket is exceptionally close to my heart. And regarding the connection between cricket and match fixing, see, there is, and the subject of the story where as I was saying, I wanted to examine the situation of a person who is uh, who has finished his career in midlife, and he's got a less than successful career, and he's desperate. Now, we have got very good examples of cricketers who uh, are in this situation. For example, I don't know how many of you know about this cricketer called Unmukh Chand, who, just like Virat Kohli, our current Indian captain, he was also the under 19 World Cup winning captain of India. And he was also supposed to like seamlessly go in and join the senior team, and follow in the footsteps of Virat Kohli. But if you see, Unmukh Chand just did not work out well in the national level, and to the extent that today Unmukh Chand does not even have a IPL contract. Similarly, with Irfan Pathan, for example, in 2004, Irfan Pathan won the ICC Emerging Cricketer of the Year award. He was 20 at that time. By 27, he had already played his last game for India, and he just recently retired like a couple of years ago. And then there are some cricketers who have actually had very successful post cricket careers. For example, Sanjay Manjrekar or Sunil Gavaskar or Ravi Shastri, who have had successful careers in cricket commentary, and then Ravi Shastri is now the national coach as well. And there are some cricketers who have not handled post-retirement well at all. Players like Maninder Singh, the spin bowler, who had even allegedly attempted suicide because of depression after game, and Chetan Sharma, who also was in trouble. And so the point I'm making here is that cricket, apart from being close to my heart, also has got some of these glorious examples of people who are inspirational in uh, shaping the character that I wrote about in the story. So although my character in the book is not based on any particular cricketer, but all of these stories have come together combined to give me good ideas of how to create the situation for this guy.
Wow. So I'll go on to the more serious part of the topic. And so who gets to finally decide the fate of a match as to whether the last ball will be a sixer or a fixer?
Yeah, yes. So when we think of match fixing, we always think that the players are compromised to an extent that they have just lost all their sense of right or wrong, and they are so down in that hole of corruption that they really have lost all their bearings about things. But in reality, actually, that doesn't happen all the time. It happens sometimes, but doesn't happen all the time, because there is something glorious about the sporting arena, the field. When you are in the thick of that moment, when you are competing and you have got fans around you, and you realize the very big position that you have, where you are managing the expectations of so many people and representing who you are representing. And you might not follow a cricketer who might have agreed to do match fixing and might not actually do it in the end. So I will say that apart from anomalies like some people underperforming in matches, I think often than not, it's the sixer who wins. That is the sport who wins. The sport is much more glorious, or much bigger, or more powerful than any match fixer.
And what do you feel? Is it only the players who are involved in all this, or there are many more people in the whole hierarchy of things?
Very very good question. Actually, what the common mistake we make, and I'm also guilty of the same before I wrote the book, was to think of corruption in sports as only match fixing. That's the more prominent thing, because we have heard so many stories about match fixing. But match fixing isn't the only crime in sports. In fact, match fixing traditionally happens to underperform. There is a role of using performance enhancing drugs to overperform, perform beyond what you cannot normally do. And there are various other people involved, players involved in sports. It's a very complex ecosystem. It's not just the players. There are coaches, there are administrators, there are people who run the sports bodies. There are privately owned sports teams now. They have been more popular outside India, but now with IPL and the other leagues that have come up, they are privately owned. So there are a lot of people involved. And like in my book, the character we are talking about who actually does corruption or the crime is a coach. And he is he's not a player. He was a player, and when he was a player, no one could move him. I mean, and make him do something wrong. But now, when he is in this stage of his life, where he's trying for a second innings, where he wants to leave a legacy on the game, which he couldn't when as a player, that desperation just makes him lose reason. Lose the sight of what is right and wrong, and then from there on, he starts getting compromised. But towards the end, he redeems himself. But even in this story, it's not just this coach who is the villain here in terms of compromising. The owner of the team and the overall ecosystem, the contracted players, etc. One great example that I can talk here is also the strange case of Greg Chappell. Greg Chappell was a coach of India during Saurav Ganguly's time, and in fact, it's Saurav Ganguly who got him into Indian cricket, and it was a disastrous 2 years for Indian cricket. And Greg Chappell brought his own brand of politics into the team, and he created these divisions and groups inside the team. And it is supposed that he's single-handedly responsible for Irfan Pathan's poor career, because he just played with his mind. Irfan Pathan, or you should look at even Mohammad Kaif, who was also a very talented cricketer of that time. And so it is very juvenile, or it's naive to think of match fixing as the only crime in sports. There are many other things, and generally the match fixing is a result of the other problems that are there in sports.
Right, but the final common pathway or the final pawn is actually the player, and yet people idolize them, cheer them, celebrate them. So what is it about the sports person that is so magical?
Yes, actually, sports people, they embody certain qualities that we all aspire for. Yeah. And that's a general thing in life, that we admire people who do things or have things that we can't do or have. And like, for example, for sports people, the discipline, the dedication, or the talent, and the personality which naturally comes with playing sports, and the fact that they have the conviction and the courage to pursue a risky career path. Sports is very, very cruel profession, and it can bring the best among us down to our knees. As much as we see the great successes of sports and the world famous sports people, there are more number of people who were talented and who got knocked down by sports, who were bad injury, bad luck, that difficult catch which no one can normally take, and that somehow stuck to somebody's hand, and then you never got a chance to play again. So the fact that they can risk their careers with something as dangerous as sports in a way that no one knows what the outcome of that will be, is so much safer to follow conventional paths. And so that's the reason, and the fact that they naturally have leadership skills. They can lead people. When they stand somewhere and say things, people listen. And I think they all deserve the aura that is around them and the high respect that we give them. Because they really are doing something which we can't do and we aspire to do maybe. But we can all learn from what these people embody generally in life.
Yeah, I too appreciate a lot of qualities in sportsmen, especially when it comes to patriotism and integrity. I mean, I'm sure you'll have a lot of examples of those as well.
Yes, actually, like for example, if you see what happened after the 2000 match fixing scandal, which was the black day of international cricket, if I may say. When Hansi Cronje was trapped or was recorded by the Delhi police to fixing matches with Indian bookies, etc. And then some Indian players were involved as well. And later on, initially he denied, and then later on he uh, admitted it on camera that he had actually fixed matches. It broke people's heart because Hansi Cronje, with his personality, the person who had led South African cricket to such glory after they came out of the apartheid imposed ban and revamped South African cricket, and the great Indian players who were involved as well. It just broke the trust of the people who watched the game, who loved the game. They did not know what they were watching on TV. Is it real or is it a made up thing? But then what happened from there was actually the bigger story. From then, with the leadership of Saurav Ganguly and the great gentlemen of Indian cricket, Anil Kumble, Sachin Tendulkar, VVS Lakshman, Rahul Dravid, the integrity, the passion, the commitment, the patriotism that they brought to the game and they restored the game to its glory. And what they, through their personal conduct and through the lives they have led and their lives outside cricket, what they have lived. They brought the sanctity back to the game, restored its former glory. And personally, however much I admire their on-field exploits, I really regard their off-field exploits to be more consequential into that dark era that was there. And thus, we are blessed as a nation to have these players at that bad time to bring the game back to where it deserved to be.
Yeah, so on the one hand, we talk about integrity, and on the other hand, we talk of corruption. So, where is the line, and when do players actually cross that boundary?
Yes, as I said before, that there's a large ecosystem. Sports is a large ecosystem, and just blaming the sports people alone for the corruption is a mistake. Even the match fixing that a particular sportsman might be doing is a culmination of many things that might have happened. And as I also said that sports is very cruel, and then people who are many sports people who are very talented, they are not able to make it, and they in mid career they might have lost from bad injury. But let's start from the beginning. If you look at the journey of a sports person, I mean, in a country like India, 20 years ago, at least Indian cricket used to be dominated mostly by players who came from the metros, especially Delhi and Bombay, and Bangalore to some extent. And then from there it spread out. Obviously, players from smaller cities. MS Dhoni, good example, from Ranchi came up. Now, this did a lot of good from the perspective of giving players more opportunity. But when it was not there, when these opportunities did not exist, it was an amazing uphill task for players to make it to anywhere in the national team. The sports training is exceptionally expensive. It requires equipment. It requires expert coaches. It requires academies. It requires mentorship, and you need more than a fair amount of luck as compared to other professions to get noticed somewhere. So all these make sports people exceptionally vulnerable. They realize they have a lot to lose. They realize they have got a very short window in which their careers will operate, and if they can't, make it in that window, and then they'll retire because it's a age-dependent thing. And then apart from that, the things that make sports glorious also work against it, in a sense that the fact that we look at sports people as heroes and we idolize them, and we run up to them and take autographs when we meet them in airports and outside anywhere in the field. It might get to their head. There's a lot of prominence that comes with the game, and sometimes you can get to it. So it's a combination of various things that leads to corruption. I'm talking only of sports people now. It can be poor education about the perils of this kind of compromise. One good example is that this Pakistani bowler Mohammad Asif, who was just 20 when he was trapped into match fixing. He was bowling no balls every odd over, and he received a ban of 5 years at the peak of his career. And the poor kid did not even know that this can be this bad. So someone fooled him into thinking that this is no problem at all. No one can catch you. So poor education, vulnerability, lot of investment into becoming a sports person, short window, glamour and money which can go to your head for sportsmen. And for the other people who are corrupt in terms of the administrators, etc., it's a multi-billion-dollar global industry. There's a lot of states involved, and the control of sports bodies, the control of privately owned teams, coaches, getting coaching assignments. All of them are ripe for making compromises because the stakes are very high. And thus, the less solid among us might succumb to these kind of pressures.
Yeah, so that really makes them much more vulnerable, and that's why they can show their strength by not giving in to those. But there are conditions where they lose that strength or they just give in. And where does their weakness lie? Is it just money? I don't think so. So what do you feel? Why do they do this if they have to?
Yeah, I think, as I said, if it generally in life, if it gets to our head that we have got a lot to lose by not doing something, that's the time when we become vulnerable. And I'll take you back to this character in my book, because he has retired now and he can't go back and play, and his family buys a cricket team, a privately leagued cricket team, and he is looking at this team as his great opportunity of redemption, where he can actually flourish as a coach, take the team to victory, and leave a legacy on the game, which is the most important thing for him. He wants to leave a legacy on the game, which he has not been able to leave as a player. Now, what is playing in his head is the fact that there is a lot to lose if he doesn't get this position. And the moment you get that, and I'll take you back to the Oscar Wilde quote, which I said a little while ago, that moment it comes to your head that this is something that is a do or die for me. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. If I let it go, I'll never have it again. That's the beginning of the time when you can somehow start conditioning your mind that, hey, it is fine to do this. And that's from where you get into a slippery slope from which you might not never recover. And when you are less secure than what you should be, or when you have poor education about the process, about the perils, when you do not know how easily you can be caught, or where you do not understand the level of tracking that happens. Ben Johnson, for example, I don't remember the year now, but in one of the Olympics, maybe 20 years ago, he beat the 100-meter record by it was around 8 odd seconds or something like that, by 2 or 3 seconds. Imagine the impossibility of that. And he had obviously taken performance enhancing drugs, and he did not realize that he will get caught after the race. When he is going to be tested, he is going to get caught. Now this is baffling, because this is not the first race that he has ever ran in. He knows that drug testing happens. But if the desire to beat Carl Lewis, who was the dominant racer at that time, the need to beat him was so strong in his head. If I can't do it normally, I'll do something. Coming second is not an option. I'd rather get caught. So when you get into that mode, that I'll rather get caught than be somebody ordinary, or not be able to excel in the way I want to excel. That's the point. That's the point where you develop that critical weakness from the you can be exploited.
So, do you mean that it's not just money, but also ego and also not wanting to let the fans down, right? So, this is what actually drives them into something as drastic as this, right?
Exactly. And a great example of this is the American cyclist Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong won the Tour de France, which is one of the toughest sporting event anywhere in the world, 7 times in a row. And this race, it circles the country of France, 2,300 miles through the city and also through the Alps. So it's mountain region and plains. It's horribly grueling. He won it 7 times in a row after surviving cancer. After he had undergone all the treatment that's required for cancer, chemotherapy, radiation, etc., which really destroys somebody's body. The, to your point, Pure, that he was so eager to prove, maybe first to himself and then to people around him, that cancer is nothing. I can beat cancer and still win this kind of a race. This is not an ordinary badminton match, all right? This is a 2,300-mile race across France. Much of it is mountain region. That desire was so strong in his head. I mean, of course, if you read his books, the one good book that he had written was it's not about the bike, my journey back to life, where he talks about this post-cancer training and how he used to train during the winter months, off-peak time in the Alps. He was a very, very dedicated cyclist, more dedicated than anybody else. But even he knew that it's not going to be enough to win this kind of a race. So he won 7 years in a row. Everyone suspected during that time, not his fans, but the administrators suspected during that time that there was something wrong. And Lance Armstrong was very smart. He did not take any performance enhancing drugs. He took performance enhancing blood, oxygenated blood, which he was taking from intravenous, and he used to cover up those little marks using makeup, so that people can't see those little marks. And eventually he got caught, and he came on Oprah's show and admitted this thing. And there are millions of people all over the world who had been motivated by him, inspired by him, that they also can overcome their personal situations, however bad they might be. And Lance just broke the hearts of so many people.
That's true. Yeah. So actually, I guess they are under a lot of pressure due to the expectations also, and this makes them do so many different things. And so I think we've covered a huge spectrum of the types of corruption in sports, right from match fixing to taking drugs, stimulants, even this kind of new techniques that people devise, various type of oxygenated blood. And these are all the types. I think we've covered a great deal. Plus, we've seen what the final, if they actually are banned from the game, they are nowhere to be found later on, or their lives are actually ruined. So maybe we can just, what do you feel? Sometimes people resort to corruption to overperform, so as to not let down the fans, and at other times to underperform just to get money or something like that. They'll bowl a no ball, or they'll not hit a six, or they'll get out. So there is the overperformance and there's the underperformance. If you were the fan, which one would you forgive more easily, or which one would you never forgive?
Yeah, this is a very tricky question, because I think fans by nature, especially sports fans, are exceptionally emotional. Emotion is a very key aspect of sports, of following sports, or playing sports. And a good example again of this is that recently Diego Maradona died. Rest in peace. He was a hero for millions of people around the world, and he is probably the greatest footballer ever. Now, there is in 1986, he played in a charity match, and the opposing captain was Michel Platini. And Diego Maradona was wearing a shirt which had written "Say No to Drugs," and Michel Platini was wearing a shirt which had written "Say No to Corruption," and the referee was Pele. As luck would have it, Diego Maradona got banned because of using drugs, and Platini got banned because for life, like for corruption in sports. Point I'm making is that even after these transgressions, even after these compromises they have made, they still ride high on in the hearts of people. But for that, there has to be something that makes them emotional, makes the fans emotional. If you look at Diego Maradona's case, for example, very interesting case because he had done this hand of God handball an unfair play in the '86 final against England, and uh, then he got caught for using drugs. But even then, he's so idolized. The reason is because this underdog story, the the fact that he had come from Argentina, the fact that he was this diminutive person, the fact that he used to be always attacked on the football field by everyone. They would bring him down. They wouldn't allow him to run at all.
Mr. Dubey, I'm sorry I'm going to interrupt you, but we have to answer two quick questions. One from the first one from the audience is, and they say that what are your views on fantasy cricket games emerging online, and are they promoting crime in sports and celebrating it virtually?
Actually, I
A
disagree. I
quick
don't.
answer for that because we have
Yeah,
2 more minutes and one more question to go.
yeah, yeah, I disagree. I don't play fantasy sports at all, so I don't know the mechanics of it, but I know what they're about. They are legalized betting, and legalized betting is very important because illegal betting is one of the main reasons for match fixing because it is controlled by the mafia. So anything which leads to legalized betting is good, and to that extent, fantasy sports is good.
Okay, that was an interesting take. And what do you feel? How does corruption in sports, is it any similar or any different from corruption elsewhere? And I think that will be our last or second last question for the day. Let's see.
No, I think corruption is corruption. I think it's universal. The fact that it's done by sports people just makes it more prominent. And and 2 minutes ago, I was talking of the emotional part of it because we are
Yeah,
so
that's
emotionally attached to sports. We think they are bigger crimes, but the underlying mechanics that goes on in a person's head, which leads to that corruption, is the same whether you are a sports person or a normal person working in any other profession. It is about the fact that you want to win something unfairly and you do not believe that you can get it in the right way, and you do not mind doing that small amount of compromise that needs to get there. The mechanics in the head is the same. I think it's just sports is more emotional, so we think it is bigger.
So I think we should end on a positive note. If you can just tell us, are there any ways or techniques or methods that administrators can adopt to stop or curb crime in sports?
I think the main thing is counseling. You have to tell people that you how easily they can get, how big the tracking is. That's one. Second is you have to subsidize sports. If sports continue to be so expensive in terms of training and equipment, the more investment people will make, the more vulnerable they will be. Third, you have to promote all sports, not just cricket. Because I might be very skilled in football, but I've gone into cricket because it's more liquidative, and I'm not able to make it there. I can become corrupt.
Great. So I think we have to wrap up the session now. And all I can say is that I really enjoyed it and thank you so much
Same here.
for enlightening us. And maybe I'll just end with a little a couplet, and that is like, when matters go to the court of law from the court of grass, that is when sports lose their magic and become a farce. So I think we should wrap up there,
Awesome.
and thank you so much. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Congratulations. Thank you very much, Pierre, for hosting this.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye.